Hello, today I thought I'd take a look at my Western Connection VHS collection, particularly the anime side of things. If you don't know, Western Connection were a video distributor in the 90s based in the UK. They've released a load of other stuff, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on the anime they released and the titles of theirs that I managed to get hold of. In the description, I'll leave a link to a blog which goes into the history of the company, how they started, licenses and everything, and each title, is going through each title and reviewing it. So that'll be in the description. Anyway, first up, I believe this is the first animated title they managed to get a license for and release over here. The Essentialist. Basically, this chronicles the main character's life and all the fun things he gets up to in it, basically. Also, what you'll notice later on in here, there's the side, there's the back. Take note of the certificates here. That's printed on. Okay, that's all printed on. I'll mention that later on with some of these other titles. Yeah, but I believe this is the very first animated title they got the license for and released. Right, next I have is another Kama Sutra. Most Go Nagai fans will recognise this because this is a Go Nagai license-based property, basically. This, from what I can understand, this did get I think it's got a VHS or DVD. I think it's got a DVD release in America under Kitty Media, I believe. I'm not sure this got an English dub or not. A lot of these titles were just subtitled. They didn't get English dubs, and except for a select few, a lot of them were just subtitled and never been sort of released in English, or they've been released in other countries but never redubbed or released in English again. Yeah, that's Kama Sutra. Right, next titles, say titles because they kind of have the story to them. Here we go. Slow Step 1 and Volume 2. Now about these, this was incredibly easy to get hold of, Volume 1. Volume 2 was incredibly difficult. This doesn't have a listing on Amazon anywhere. Doesn't have a single listing on eBay, except for the one. Except I've only ever seen it once, and that was this copy was the only listing I ever saw of it on its own on eBay. These are just Western Connection titles are just incredibly hard to get hold of. If they only got released, on in the UK, I'll go through some of the others, but this was only released subtitled in the UK, as far as I can tell. It has Italian releases, but this is released subtitled in the UK, and they're just impossible to get hold of. I've found this by pure chance, and this has a listing on Amazon as well as Volume 3. So that's Volume 1 and 2 there, and I managed to get hold of all three of them. Let's just move these out of the way. I managed to get hold of them by pure luck. By pure luck I managed to get hold of all three volumes. So I have which is funny because as these are so hard to get hold of and they've got no listings, I managed to get double up. So I've got 2 copies of 1 and 2. This has a listing on, like I said, Volume 1 has a listing on Amazon. Volume 3 has a listing on Amazon, but it's not available. For the longest time it was about 30 quid on Amazon, and I wasn't prepared to pay that much. Luckily I found a job lot which had Volume 3 in, but it also came with 1 and 2. So I doubled up on those, but the listing was about 50. I put an offer in for about 50 or 60. Managed to get the entire VHS bundle with these, so that was just pure luck I stumbled on these. But Western Connection videos are incredibly, I find they're incredibly tough to get hold of. Just if you see listings for them, grab them up, because a lot of the other titles that I don't have listings anywhere. Italian releases, they have them, but the UK releases of these titles under Western Connection, they're just impossible to track down, a lot of them. Right, next load. And these ones are interesting. Galactic Pirates. I don't know if you'd know. This is Galactic Pirates 3, 1 and 2. They're not actually sequels, they're volumes. But what Western Connection would do with a lot of the titles which had multiple episodes is they would take out the intros and the endings in between the episodes. So they would take out the ending of episode 1 and the beginning of episode 2 and just meld them together. Because what I believe is it was far more expensive to release a title which had 2 episodes, so they would meld them together to make the 2 episodes the one long episode, if that makes sense. So it was very buying licenses for cheap and releasing them cheap as possible. Galactic Pirates is an interesting one, because I believe this was actually it's English dubbed, which is for a Western Connection is quite uncommon. But I believe this was dubbed by actually them, or like I said, in the description I'll leave a link to the blog which goes into detail about the dub for this. But you hear Ghazi's Wing and all other anime have awful dubs. This is absolutely fucking horrendous. This isn't even so bad it's good. This dub is just absolutely horrible. I don't think. I could probably dub this better. The dub for this is absolutely horrendous. I have no words. It's absolutely awful. Right. Also, along with Kama Sutra and Essentialist, you'll notice that the certificate is actually printed on. Look, it's printed on. But we'll get on to one which everyone should know. They actually released Lupin the Third, Fuma Conspiracy. And as I was talking about the certificates, these are actually stickers. On some of the titles they released, it seems like the later titles, the certificates and the information here are actually stickers stuck on the inlay. And another thing about the inlays, they were printed on very, very thin, low quality paper. So you could just, if you find a Western Connection video without a sleeve, just find the sleeve on, Google a image search for like the cover of this, print it off, exactly the same quality. It's really bad. This was obviously released. Discotech got hold of the license and released Fuma Conspiracy. So this particular one isn't hard to get hold of at all. But again, it's just another which is subtitled only. But this was when I was being a Lupin fan in the UK in the 90s. It was very tough to get hold of stuff. All we got was Secret of Mamo, Castle Cagliostro, Goodbye Lady Liberty, this, and the Gold of Babylon. They were the only titles we had until in the 2000s, when we got Twilight Gemini and Haramao's Treasure on VHS and DVD. But yeah, I mean, look at these covers as well. I mean, the Fuma Conspiracy was good, but this is just, and this part is such a small part in the film. Like, this is like, about a 10-second scene, and they chose that over everything else they could have chosen for the front cover. But that's the Gold of Babylon. I believe this was I think this was released in the US VHS, but for the longest time, Discotek, they had the license, and they didn't release this. They released First Contact over this, which is a good choice because this isn't particularly good. But yeah, for the longest time, this was sort of like, people wanted this for some bizarre reason. It's not, I think it's completion. It says it's not a particularly good Lupin movie, but it's good to have, and it's good to have like a actual sort of vintage release on VHS. Right, now just coming on to like the single release films now, and this next one is actually the first Western Connection tape I got a hold of back in the day. So here we go. Love City, very cool sort of cyberpunky adventure film. This got released in Italy, which, wait there, I actually have, if I can find it. Here we go. I got the Italian release. Obviously no English subtitles, but I have it on DVD, so I don't have to transfer that. This was the first Western Connection tape I got hold of back in the 90s. I think around the time it was possibly released. And again, this is another one which is a casualty. This is no other releases apart from that Italian DVD. This has not been released anywhere in English again.
It's official. You suck.
Next one is actually a really good film. I really enjoyed this one far more than I thought I would. Samurai Gold, very sort of funny, sort of space samurai film. I enjoy it a lot. And this is not been released in English, dubbed in English anywhere, or subtitled at all. Because a lot of these are sort of like hidden. I don't like the term, but there are a lot of hidden gems. This is really good. Discotek should really jump on a lot of these titles and release them. They sort of can get licenses for like all sorts of films. I try and get the licenses for these because a lot of these are really quite good. Despite the company sort of shady and buying stuff on cheap and releasing it cheap and quick to cash in on sort of like the anime boom in the early 90s. Discotek, try and get a hold of some of these licenses and release them. People will buy them. I mean, people are buying fucking Gold of Babylon, which is a shit Lupin film, and these are head and shoulders above that. Next is Hummingbirds. I believe this isn't actually complete. I think this is just 2 episodes, obviously put together as one film. And so this is an incomplete release, from what I can understand. Don't quote me on that. Like I said, the blog goes into far deeper information about these releases. But I believe this is just part of the OVA. Again, if Discotek could get the license for this and completely release, it in its entirety, that would be great, because I'm sure people back in the day would have loved to have seen a conclusion to it, or even just the full thing. And the last film I have is Grey, Digital Target. Now with this one, I believe there is an English dub for it, not done by Western Connection. I'm not entirely sure about that, but this did get released. I'm not sure the company, but this did get a release in America. And it's been a while since I've seen this, I can't remember, but it kind of, I think I got like MD Geist Mad Max kind of vibes from it. But it was sort of like one of those, I'm probably going to get this completely wrong, but it felt like a sort of post-apocalyptic kind of film, kind of in the veins of sort of like MD Geist and Mad Max, which is probably why I thought about that. But yeah, here's they all my Western Connection titles, all that I own. There we go. I'm not going to get them all in shot, but there's a huge chunk of them there. It would be good if any distributor can get hold of any of these licenses and just re-release them, because I think some of these are really, really good. like Samurai Gold, Grey, Love City, just if Discotheque. That's the only company I can think of, and they're not even based in the UK. They're in America. But if Discotheque can get hold of some of these titles and re-release them, you know, it'd be great, because people are missing out. Like I say, Samurai Gold, Grey, Love City. They're like just really enjoyable, and I think people are like sort of like the retro anime at the moment, and I think they would sell well. But this is what we got from Western Connection, and you know, love them or hate them, they did release a lot of really good titles, or interesting titles as well back in the day. So in some form we have, you know, we do have them, and again, a lot of these, well, not a lot of them, but some of them were released in the US and on DVD. There was titles I haven't got. Devil Hunter Yoko was released in the US on DVD, and Space Firebird, I believe they got a DVD released by Mad Men Entertainment. So there are ways to get hold of them, but a lot of these, like the ones here, you can only get on VHS and only from Western Connection. So someone send this video to Discotheque and just say, please get the licenses and fucking re-release these, because these would sell. They would sell. Also, get the license and re-release this.